Ice up! It's the A to Z Podcast. Zach Jackson, Andre Knott, A to Z Podcast.com, Facebook.com/A to Z Podcast. And just because I ran into my high school basketball coach the other day, and he proudly told me he listened to the podcast, and not so proudly told me he was a little taken back by the F-bombs, we're going to give the disclaimer. Sometimes we get wound up and say bad words. So if that's not for you, if there's kids around or if you're in a work environment, please turn us down. Please use your earbuds or come back at some other time. It's Scene. It's the Honeymoon Grill and American Fireworks that make this happen. It's you guys that have allowed this thing to grow. We have fun doing it. And, Dre, let's have fun again.
Absolutely. Sorry, Coach. I don't know what was worse, our F-bombs or Zach's play. But I learned most of my F-bombs from all my coaches, so we should understand that.
I'll say this for Coach. Let me say this for Coach Schindewolf. The guy had a temper. The guy has a temper. He got red-faced. He screamed. He chest-bumped a couple people right out of the gym. But I don't think I ever, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I ever heard him say the F word.
Hey, that's okay. We need more people out there like that. But I got a couple rules in life, and some of these rules in life aren't always the best of rules. They're things that kept to themselves to make us laugh, so I'll let them out and embarrass myself. Hard to trust a man that don't drink. Hard to trust a man that doesn't use the F-bomb. No offense, Coach, but sometimes you got to use them.
Fucking right, you do.
What'd you say?
Yeah, so if you're new here, welcome. This is what we do. We kind of freelance it. We freewheel it. The Browns are in the news. The Indians are in the midst of destroying the rest of their JV division with an eye on October. It is hotter than Jerusalem outside. The Cavs added Sam Decker, and I'll tell you, there's one thing that could make me watch.
He's got a good R&B album, Sam Decker.
There is one thing that could make me watch a non-Lakers Cavs game next year, and that's an all-white lineup on the floor. I'm here for it. Go ahead, call me whatever you want. I'm here for it.
Well, Larry Nance don't count. He mixed, right?
Well, that's a good question. Does he count or not?
Well, y'all keep telling us we had a black president. He was mixed. I'm just saying. The rule's always been you got a house of black blood and you be black. I mean, Larry Nance definitely black, but his mama white. So that's a good question. I'm asking. These are the things I need to know. As you can see, this podcast is going to go many which ways. Hopefully, we can end up making some sense one way or the other. I'm all here for that. Sam, all right, is it wrong for me? And this is just a quick question. Is there any Cavs move? It blows by me. I'm just okay, whatever.
No, it's not wrong, and that's for many reasons. One, I think, is exhaustion, although we warned people all along that exhaustion is a better alternative than losing, right?
Yeah.
But one guy made his decision. It was what it was. It stands, and we go forward. But the other thing, Dre, is prepared for this as they were, as they are, as they could have been. You're not making any move. If there was any splash move out there in July, it would have been made, right? And so as you assess your options for whatever it's going to be, and however many years you're going to try to take it, this process, and I used that intentionally, kind of, for what's been done, and just to kind of jab every coach that uses it. Here in August, the Cavs don't even report to camp for like 6-8 weeks, right? So, and that's the beginning of a season in which we know that half the guys on the roster now will either be traded or subject to trade talks for some form or fashion when it comes. And we don't know, besides Kevin Love and Colin Sexton, if anybody else will be in the plan 24 months from now or even 18 months from now. So no, that's not bad. And like I said, even though, I kind of joked about the all-white lineup, like that's the thing. I'm not excited for Cavs basketball. I am a hardcore NBA fan in that I like it on Christmas and that I like the playoffs. I like the drama. I love where the league is right now. I am not watching bad basketball and listening to bad basketball for 82 games. I didn't watch the regular season games when LeBron was here.
I was going to say. You don't watch regular season basketball. You watch college basketball.
Correct. Horizon League Thursdays is what I live
You're a
for.
college basketball fan.
Yes. That's what I am, among other things.
NBA, among many others. NBA is easier for me to deal with during the season. And I'll pay attention to the Cavs. I'm a homer. I mean, as a fan, I'm a homer. I'll admit, like when I'm not working, I will pay attention to the local team. I mean, but Springer knows this. Who's out in Hawaii, and we're all going to be using his HBO code tonight. We'll get back to that in a second. How all of us are going to steal to watch Hard Knocks. Even though I thought Zach should be on the orange carpet, front and center. Whole other story.
Not my thing.
I get into watching West Coast teams, Portland, the Utahs, and obviously I'll probably watch 70 Lakers regular season games this year because that's just who I am. But I really don't give a damn about basketball until January 1. Christmas Day, it's a nice thing to take you away from having to deal with and listen to your family talk about their bad gifts. But until New Year's Day, hell, to be honest, until February 1st, I'm kind of okay on basketball. Like, it'll be there, but I won't be, blown away by it either.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about in terms of a Christmas Day distraction. I mean, hell, I'd rather go back to the days of the blue and gray game and the Aloha Bowl on Christmas if I'm given my druthers. Well, actually, after a couple of years ago, I think the Ravens and Steelers should always play on Christmas. I don't give a shit if it's Wednesday.
They knocked damn near killed each other that year, too.
I mean, how good was that game? It was the best.
Yes. It was one of the best football games ever. And they damn near killed each other. And the league ain't been the same since. Oh, and we're going to bounce all around. There's a player for the Vikings that was wearing a hat and make football violent again. Mm-hmm. And you get on these messages for work. I try to stay off the ones that talk about Ohio State because that was a whole other thing. And there were so many people that were mad at me. Cedeno? I can't think of his last name.
Sendejo.
Yeah. Just your initial reaction to that, I kind of liked it. I get what he's saying. I'm not saying that I'm okay with CTE and things of that nature. But I think, and I've been meaning to ask you this, and I know The Athletic has written about this a lot. I still am waiting for my hat. Athletic. Somebody from The Athletic should be listening to this goddamn podcast. Andre Knott would like the knitted hat, please. The hat, I'll wear it. I'll rock it. I talk about The Athletic for any of the fat people you got that work there. Give me my hat. I pay for it, too. But it's been a lot about the tackling and lowering the head rules. Being around the Browns camp, just talking to football people that you've talked to, it's concerned that the the offensive players get penalties thrown on them for lowering their heads.
Yeah, the NFL wasn't real happy with Mr. Sendejo and that message. And it is a time where CTE is making headlines and where they are trying to make the game safer. And frankly, I think the game is safer than it has been, between the technology and the safety involved and then the measures taken with the penalties. So there is always going to be on the outside, Dre, that craving for the old blood sport football, right? Like when I wrote that Joe Schobert article, I talked about the old school middle linebacker ran around and didn't have any teeth and clothesline people after the play, right? He's not that.
Right.
But I think that there's a balance because there's always a part of football that it is going to be violent. These collisions are going to be nasty, and that's part of the reason you watch. I went to a high school scrimmage this morning for 10 minutes, and the one play I remember is a safety just making a great read on a 5-and-out pass and just blasting this kid, and it got reaction from both sidelines. Right.
Right.
So that's what it is. But I also think we're at the time now, both in the NFL and at all levels, where it's like, okay, we're in training camp. We're setting the tone. We need to hit. We need to be physical. But the reality is, in the NFL, these guys make a lot of money. And at the younger levels, last night when it was 94 fucking degrees, if you had your 6th grade team out there in full pads blasting each other, you're a caveman, and you should go do something else, right? So, yeah, that's interesting. And the reason it makes headlines is because everybody takes a side in that, even in this culture where everybody's already taken a side about something else. But I think one guy wearing a hat, doesn't change A, the measures that have been taken, or B, that the message is going to be, we can have this game. It can still be a great game and a violent game without it being outrageous on the other side. I mean, what was the hit was, I think Wesley Woodyard last year in that Monday night game when he just decapitated the guy after the play. I thought he got hammered with the fine. He got hammered with the suspension. He's on notice. I mean, that can't happen. So what else is the league supposed to do? Right?
Right. No, absolutely. To me, it's like, why? The NFL can't get caught up in hats. They can't get caught up in, it's still America. Like, God, I hate having this conversation. The NFL worries about the wrong shit. Just let me say it. They just worry. Like, to me, they just, worry about the people that are playing the game. Worry about the people that are coming to the game. stop getting into the politics of worrying about, like, because they just keep getting caught up in the wrong thing. Hey, a guy can wear a hat that he wants. I mean, it's always been like this. Jim McMahon with the '86 Bears was making fun of Pete Rozelle the whole year. They didn't like. I'm just saying, if you go through the history of the NFL, when you're paying attention to hats and things that players are creating, you can sometimes you got to look the other way. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Look the other way, and it becomes less of a story. The same thing with the damn national anthem. If they just set us something to set a rule the right way, stop talking about it, didn't make on the off season, it'd probably be damn near gone. I love the NFL, but I love the games at 1 o'clock. I got to tell you something. I really don't like much else that's going on with the NFL. I love the sport. I've always loved the sport, and I always will. But it's hard to like much else around it right now. That's just me being honest. Like the Hall of Fame stuff was just way to go, Ray Lewis. Way to sweat completely through your suit so we saw the white beater. I was hoping the white suit was underneath. Randy Moss, shout out to you. Randy was awesome. I thought Randy was awesome going to West Virginia. It's crazy how the 180 that Randy Moss has taken. If you remember, because as I said, we're watched because we know out the whole careers. But I commend a guy like Randy Moss because I don't know how many people will listen to his speech. I was having a couple White Claws of the law while I listened. But I just thought it was cool. He said when he got done with his career, he went to his wife. He was like, I got to get my kids. I got to get my kids. And he goes, and I went and got my kids. And that's what he does. Like, and he's like, I just think that I think sometimes I know that this is going to come off the wrong way because Ray Lewis likes to kiss his kids on the mouth. But that may have been a lie if you saw his kids react. I just think sometimes I think this is a lesson to the younger generation. Be a Hall of Famer in a career, you got to be a Hall of Famer in more than just the game that you play. And I think in most of those guys' stories, I think Brian Dawkins, if you didn't get, I don't know, man. He made me almost cry when he's talking about how he's going through depression and having thoughts of suicide. Those are the moments the NFL should be finding a way to market and talk about. That speech by Brian Dawkins and those parts of that speech, if I'm the NFL, who gives a shit about a hat somebody's wearing? Put that video together. Go sit down in every football office you can with every guy on every roster. Play what Brian Dawkins says and have that conversation. Doesn't have to be written about in USA Today. Doesn't have to be in The Athletic. But that's what needs to be dealt with and talked about. Talk to your people about what they're going through and what they're feeling. I know that's not very manly, and it's not like the sixth grade coach that's killing some kid right now in 90-degree weather. But that, to me, says you care about the product and the people. Have a conversation when a guy that's going into the Hall of Fame is telling you, I played this sport, I love this sport, I deal with depression, I've thought about killing myself. To me, that's what I take away from the weekend. And that Ray Lewis kisses his kids on the mouth.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, and not only is your initial statement about, you're cool with the on-field product, you're into Sunday at 1 and not much else. Not only do I think that's fair, Dre, I think that's become more common. And I think the anthem discussion, which I think the president has driven and the league has fucked up more than anything else, comes to the forefront, and then you see the numbers come out, and it's really, as I've said many times, you guys can go ahead and pick at the NFL for losing ratings or for certain groups of people saying they're turning it off. Like, the NFL is not struggling by any means. It still remains the monster in American pro sports, although I think the NBA is in a good time and a good place and is knocking at the door. I think in 15 years it'll be interesting as we see the growth of basketball. There's been a lot of basketball this summer that's been popular. I think Instagram and Twitter and social media and the tournament and other things have done that. I think LeBron's out there with his kid, and we talked on the last podcast or two ago about him getting in line and doing that. But I think it's really good for basketball when all those dudes that everybody knows shows up in Vegas when the next generation is playing. I think that's really, really a good thing. But the NFL commands our attention. It commands it brings such passion. The one game a week thing makes it real easy to be a fan and real easy to get excited and to get caught up and have Overreaction Monday every Monday, whether your team wins or loses. In Cleveland, don't worry, it's coming, where you'll be back in the real NFL, where you actually win a game every now and again, so you can ride those waves both ways instead of just one way. but I don't think the NFL is really. I don't think it's in a bad place, Trey. I don't. It has its issues, and you make a great point. I think things like that are being done. I think the right messages are being promoted internally. I think teams in the league more than ever are going out of their way to give the guys the right education before they send them on their way to make their own choices on and off the field. So we'll see. As we record, just a programming note, guys, as we record this, it's Tuesday afternoon, so we haven't seen Hard Knocks yet. And this will definitely be the only podcast until at least later in the week, because I, in about 12 hours, am headed to New Jersey for the Browns preseason opener. And if I don't have to bring the podcast computer and everything that comes with it, it makes my 50 or so hour trip a hell of a lot easier, so we're just not going to do that.
Right.
So that's kind of where we are, but we are a Hard Knocks nation, Trey. Like, everything these days is blasted to everyone, right? You really got to go out of your way to keep something private these days. So we've loved the show. We've talked about the show. I think the only one I can remember that sucked was the Rams, because they were just so boring and terrible. I mean, Jared Goff was not ready for the spotlight or the football field.
They were a year too early in the Rams.
Yeah, they were a year too early. I mean, Jeff Fisher was clearly on his way out the door.
Idiot.
The Greg Williams F-bombs were what they were, and by the second episode, it was like, what has he got else? But, Hard Knocks has been awesome. It takes us to where we can't go, and us includes me, who's there every day. It brings larger-than-life characters even larger. It introduces us to the underdog that everybody's rooting for, and it gives you football. It gives you a fight in training camp. It gives you a guy getting cut, a guy getting traded. The Browns have had an interesting camp. 10 or 11 days in, whatever it is, they've had two major moves. The left tackle thing and the trade of Corey Coleman. And now, for the next 5 Tuesdays, starting tonight, we're going to see. So you tell me.
Well,
you'll probably get to watch it. You won't get to see it at 10 o'clock tonight, but I guarantee you got it on the DVR or on demand, correct?
Oh, yeah. Come on now. For sure. I look forward to the show regardless. You opened my eyes. I believe it was your article that you wrote. And Richard, you wrote an article about things you expected. I heard an interview on my man Fox and the Big Guy with somebody talking about it. I think the thing I look forward to, and it's going to be very odd, especially for you because you cover the team, and I know others that cover the team with you that have a very there's a way to ask questions, and there's a way to have conversations sometimes. And maybe this is all media, but I just deal with the media that's Cleveland, that's Northeast Ohio. And sometimes people can inappropriately ask questions off of things they see off TV when it's probably a better time to just go face-to-face with the person. I think you guys are going to see some intimate conversations, and I'm going to be very curious how they get turned around and discussed amongst the Berea brethren of reporters. That makes because you when I read your article last night, all I kept thinking was it is going to be crazy to see Hugh Jackson sitting at a table discussing the third round fullback or third string tackle. Like, how much do we get to see of that? They can't cut everything. Like, we're going to see conversations and hear conversations that we've never heard or seen before when it comes to breaking down why your team feels a certain way. And I never thought of this. Like, when it was the Dolphins or the Bengals or whomever else, or Houston, like in week 8, I'm like, hey, man, you remember back in August when they said they didn't like this or that? I think we're going to have some we're going to be able to remember some things from these 5 episodes that we'll remember, and it'll play out during the season. Does that make sense?
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with that, Dre.
And I never thought of it until I read your article last night, and I was like, damn, we are going to see some intimate conversations that all of us will play back to them, say, mid-October, to easily watch.
I know some of you longtime listeners remember this. There was a day last year when I caught on the podcast, and I said, remember this day in camp because 2 things happened. I said, one, Jabril Peppers had his breakout. He looked like an NFL player. He looked like he was a confident guy prowling around out there instead of a rookie spinning. And then, of course, whether it was just the alignment or just everything, he didn't have a good year. They never put him in that position again. Let's put it that way. And then also that's the day in practice that he went on a tangent and basically told reporters that we had no idea how good this team was going to be, and then they didn't win a game. So congrats to you on Hugh. Is glad that you mentioned my article because mine, Dre, this year is so far I've been following HBO, Hard Knocks, whatever it is on Instagram. And they've been putting up snippets, some like actual commercials, but some just like maybe a 12-second clip or something because I enjoy watching that. And I just think the moment from yesterday where you hear Hugh talking, and then you see the whole staff lined up, and everybody wearing these grins like they got it figured out, and Greg Williams sits in front and does the clap, and every sheep does the clap. I think we're going to remember that. Just book that one, guys.
Oh, yeah. Break it out, Greg. Yeah, I was like,
and listen, and I'm not trying to kill anybody personally. As I've told you guys many times, I've lived that shit. I was at that cookout every summer, that pep rally, right, for 10 years. Right. So I know how that goes. And I'm just telling you, I know how this goes. Thank you. Next item.
Yeah. He's not lying. I mean, and I think people take that the wrong way sometimes because I get it. There's going to be excitement. And you guys know how I feel about Pumpkinhead. I'm trying to mature in life and not make fun of people that dress up in Halloween costumes year-round. But you guys know how I feel. It's not even about his costume, but that's nor here nor there. Keep promoting him, radio station. I get the excitement. It's your team. It's the team you love. It's the team you watch with your parents. I get it. But, and maybe this is the tough part in my career, I think having kids and seeing their excitement. Perfect example. Carrasco is my son's favorite player. My son has been thrilled all day long because Cookie's pitching tonight. He won't see nothing past his second inning tonight.
Right.
But he's excited because Cookie is the guy.
Well, he just likes it because his name's Cookie.
Exactly. But I'm just saying, and without you having children, but you're around mine, you're around others, they do remind you of why you love sports. It's great to have a connection with my son now because all he cares about when Cookie pitches is how did Cookie do. And my daughter asked me, what did Frankie do? Or what did Cleb do last night? And I get that there are a lot of Browns fans that I'm bringing that up because I think sometimes you and I come off very cut and dry about the Browns. And I don't know how else you should come off when the team won one game in the last 32. But, and I see this show, for some it's going to tug at the heartstrings. This is going to be like a big party for families. And at the end of the day, I think for you and I at times, when it comes to this professional sports period, some things people are going to see and they're going to go crazy about. Where you and I will go, yeah, they do that every year. Whoop-de-doo. But this is a TV show. And HBO and NFL Films has done a wonderful job. I just hope the best of Cleveland is shown. Right now we've got the conversation going on a text message about the Indians emblem or whatever for the All-Star game. Me personally, I couldn't care 2 quarters about it. I'm not going to touch the same thing.
And I'm much less than that, but go ahead.
It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything in Andre or Zach's life.
Yeah.
I still got to show up and work. I still hope that the game goes in 2.5 hours. I still hope they win the World Series, and I still hope it's the best All-Star game ever. But whatever the guitar is means awesome, good. It doesn't do anything for me. Is all I'm saying.
Sure.
And I think there's going to be moments in this Hard Knocks where I'm sure I'll go to Twitter and people will be, doing, jumping jacks, and they'll be acting like Braylon Edwards coming out of the tunnel in 2007. And I'll just be like, all right, let's move on to the discussion about the defensive line. That's probably where you and I have probably been too close.
Speaking of that, it reminds me of something I want to touch on before we get to baseball. So yesterday, I'm on a group text message, and it's a friend who doesn't live here, who has never lived here, but is a big football person and has always paid attention to the Browns for as long as I've known him, just because I've been tied to the Browns. I'd met him, 15 years ago when I worked for the Browns and whatever. And so there's a few of us on there, and he takes a screenshot of his betting site or some random betting site, and it had the season win totals for the AFC North teams. And so we had a little banter back and forth. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? What would you do? If you only had $50, what would you do? And he said, well, if I like Browns under, he said, why would I play it now when I think I'll get a better price when Hard Knocks generates the excitement from people?
Absolutely.
And I thought, I wouldn't have thought of that, but I think that's the right thing. And one quick transition based off of that. So I think I said that the Giants, the stadium is the first one to have the betting machines and the thing. I either got some bad info or just read something wrong because I'm old and I'm tired and I'm losing my mind. There is a sports book right next to the new Meadowlands Stadium, MetLife, I believe it's called. And one of the holdups, Dre, is that they are not yet allowed during a live event to offer it. So on NFL, so they're open all the time, like a normal sports book, and it's been up and running, and they had their glitches and whatever. But on Sundays, as of now, barring a rule change, they're going to be shut out, which is going to be weird. So all that stuff's coming, but that's interesting. And then right before I was dialing you up here, I saw an article about which states have moved forward with legalization and how it's going. And one place that's trying to get in the legal sports betting business, drum roll please, BW3s. Wait, so here's from the article on GamingToday.com. Another brand looking to expand is Buffalo Wild Wings. They went into the sports betting business, and they don't want to share their cash like some other operations do. They want their own booking operation to go along with their 1,700 bars across the nation. In Las Vegas, Buffalo Wild Wings is a cool place but gets overshadowed by the dozens of sports books across town. But in places like Westerville, Ohio, it's the premier place to watch games, and it's the same in most other suburban cities. I mean, that makes perfect sense, right? If you're meeting your friends at BW3s to watch the game, why wouldn't they want in there to do that? So we'll see. It'd be interesting to see how this goes. I know things have been going pretty well for the Indians lately. I know I looked up at the TV last night, and I saw they were playing the Rochester Twins. So we didn't do much of a baseball minute in our 2 pods last week because we were kind of focused on football and Urban Meyer. So before we get out of here, because we do have something for the end today, catch everybody up on where the Indians are here in the first week of August and what might be coming the rest of the way.
Well, you just said something very important. I think when you talk about where teams like it's just where Minnesota's at right now. It's like they're a AAA team, and that's what the Indians are going to get used to playing over the rest of the year. And I think it's time to take advantage of it. I think the two things that matter most is that Trevor Bauer is truly trying to win a Cy Young Award and be the best pitcher in baseball. That's going to be the best thing that came from this season, no matter what. Is that he's truly become a great pitcher, one of the best in baseball, and you can't even discuss it. There's no doubt he's one of the best in baseball. And the best news I've heard yesterday is that Corey Kluber is back. I know he had that great start on Saturday, but just talking to his pitching coach, he said he has his best bullpen, his best side that he's had all year long, and it seems like he's past that knee injury that he had that had everybody freaking out. So that's where they're at. They're good, and they know that they can make a run right now. And hell, they honestly may win the division in a month and a half, which is ridiculous. But by Labor Day, a little after Labor Day, this thing may be over because you could just tell the Twins played last night. They're not the same team. And hell, it may change all tonight. But I think they're going to run away from this. I think you look at the Sox, you look at all the other teams. It's now time for the Indians to just get healthy and get everybody on a roll. And if Kipnis gets on a roll and Kluber truly gets on the roll that we think he's going to, I think they got a legitimate chance. I think we all know first weekend in October, we're going to probably be in Houston. And Houston's going through a ton of injuries right now. Houston, and not that that's going to matter in 2 months, but it might if these injuries linger, and usually some of them do. And I'm not picking injuries to say your team can win. I think the Indians can beat anybody if Kluber's good, Bauer's good, and the two of the three at the top of the order are going well. And that's what you got to bank on to win. And I don't think if you go to the Yankees, Red Sox, Houston, and you go over to the National League, do they have 4 players that can match up with the 4 the Indians have? I don't know. Obviously, what happens in the back of the bullpen helps, but I just think the Indians are in a really good place right now. I do. So we'll see.
And the opposite of a good place would be the Browns. As we just came down, Antonio Callaway cited for marijuana possession on Sunday. So they still traded Corey Coleman, which is what they found about him.
As they traded Coleman?
Yeah.
That's a real story.
That's a real story. We had actually gotten a tip on it. We had checked with Strongsville Police. They lied, or they told. Hang on. Let me clarify that. They told my intern who called there that no such thing happened, but it's been reported. It's a minor offense, but this is a guy that came with baggage and a supposed zero strike, zero tolerance policy. So we'll see where he is, both with the team and in the in.
How do
these
fools caught buying weed? Like that should be the first conversation you have with your teammates if you smoke. Like this ain't that hard. Like you got to be a knucklehead to get caught up in some stuff like that.
Yes, you do.
All right.
And so we have a knucklehead theory on A to Z, and
yes, we do.
Yeah, so we don't have a bunch of details on that, but shout out to the listener or reader who had provided the tip. We called, we were told nothing, and that comes out today. We'll see what happens. Guys, this is how Hard Knocks works, at least how it was explained to us. So it's going to air each Tuesday at 10. They basically finish it on Monday night or even Tuesday morning so they can get the most current stuff in. And then about noon on Tuesday is when the final edits are made and Liv Schreiber does the narration. And then it's uploaded for that night. So I would imagine this doesn't make this week's. But it's not only about Hard Knocks. I mean, this is a guy they promoted, Dre, to starting wide receiver. And so we'll see. All you could really ask for as a fan is to be a living, breathing, relevant, competent franchise. You haven't been that. And, so we'll see.
Somebody gets right now, and I'll shoot them out a congrats shirt. How many times do you think we'll see Zach's fat ass in the first episode of Hard Knocks? First one that gets before 10 o'clock tonight and is right. I'll shoot him.
To my knowledge, or to my awareness level, there's only one time that I even saw the cameras in the neighborhood of where I was standing or operating. I don't really expect – I mean, look, there's enough going on in this locker room and in this building. So,
but she'll still be in the background.
Yeah, well, maybe. We'll see. I like to get a different angle on the practices sometimes. So
You do. I know you do that.
We'll see what happens. Speaking of, though, my off-season conditioning must be going well. I was wearing my Iowa State football shirt in public the other day. This guy comes up and he goes, "Hey, man, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "What years did you play football at Iowa State?"
Oh, Jesus. Wait, what lie did you tell them?
Yeah. So, anyway. So here's what we're going to do, because we both have somewhere to be, me to the airport and Dre to the ballpark. Last week I wrote the story on Joe Schobert on his improbable journey. A couple weeks ago on the podcast, talked about how I went to his hometown, spent a little time with him. Basically got the tour, and we pulled into his elementary school parking lot and did this formal interview. So as we close out today's A to Z, we thank Honeymoon, we thank Scene, and we thank American Fireworks. As we always do, we thank you guys for listening. A to Z podcast.com, facebook.com/A to Z podcast. And I'm going to play for you guys that are interested my interview from early July, about 4 weeks ago exactly, as a matter of fact, with Joe Schobert on how he went from walking on at North Dakota to playing in the Pro Bowl. Andre, thanks for your time. Friday or Saturday, correct?
Konnichiwa, Zach.
Are you guys home this weekend?
No, we go to the shot. We'll be in Chicago, my man.
All right, well, I get home Friday afternoon, probably too late for you there, so we'll talk Saturday morning.
You got it. Be good,
all right,
brother.
buddy. Be good. Hey, here's the Joe Schobert interview. Thank you guys for listening. All right, so when you're getting 296 in the state title game and all that, you obviously wanted to play college football, but was any of this realistic? Like, did you ever really think I can play college football and go to the NFL?
Yeah, I had all the little kid dreams of doing it. But then I think I was always different, where I was actually confident in my abilities to do it. So when I was walking on at North Dakota, I was already looking at how many guys from North Dakota went to the NFL and proof that there was people who had done it. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll be able to do it. So I think I always believed in myself in that respect. And luckily enough for me, I've stayed healthy and able to achieve those dreams.
Was there a time your confidence really took off or went to the next level, or was it always there?
I think it's always been there. I think, like, after my junior year of college, I had a good season, and I was still I had a good season, and I was comparing it, statistically to guys who had gotten drafted that year. And I was like my numbers and everything is just as good as everybody else, and I was only an honorable mention all conference and stuff. And I was just I was just like the normal story. Like, I had a good high school career, but didn't get any scholarships to college. And it's like, well, maybe if I have a good college career but I don't get an offer, I'll be an undrafted guy and I'll prove it all over again. But luckily enough, senior year came rolling around and I did good enough. But I just knew after my junior year, if I had a much better a better senior year, that I'd be in position to get drafted, and didn't expect it to be as good as it was, but it helped out. It worked out.
Right. When I asked your coach about 296 in the title game, he said that the touchdown catch was the
was maybe the best play.
Yeah.
So take me through that play.
Well, I think we got the ball at like 13 seconds left on the clock in the first half. At like the minus like 30-yard line. And then we just ran one play. And I ended up getting like 30 yards on a run. And then there's like 7 or 8 seconds left. And we threw an out route to Colin Dobrich, I remember, receiver. We got to like the 40 or 35-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
And we called one last time out. And it was the last play of the half. We ran this play all the time. Just Joe go deep. It's called H money. Just kind of a deep post. And just quarterback threw it up, and I was able to kind of jump over and then in front of the safety who was kind of sitting on the ball like it was a punt, and was able to just grab it like right from him as the clock expired.
And what did that make the score?
I think that kind of put it out of reach. That was
so had to deflate him, right?
Yeah, I think it was. That put it to like 35-6 or 35-14 or something to go into the half. Just or 28. So we scored 21 points in the first quarter.
So this was your junior year?
Yep.
Okay, so your senior year ends, you go play hoops, and you're hearing from St. Thomas and from
Oshkosh.
Oshkosh?
I was talking, like Drake University, actually in Iowa, was actually recruiting me pretty good and wanted me, but they're in the Pioneer League, so there's no athletic scholarships for football. So, but that was one of the places. That and North Dakota were like the final two, like at that time.
Okay, so when did you decide on North Dakota?
After going and visiting and seeing the universities, and I had a friend who was going to North Dakota, and I liked the coaching staff, and I thought I'd be able to do good stuff there. I like Drake University a lot too, but North Dakota kind of seemed to fit better when I went to visit. So I think I was probably in the winter of my senior year.
All right. So then you start as a safety at Wisconsin, which you knew the safety because you played that in high school, right? Yep. And then tell me about your 3 days as a wide receiver.
Yeah. Well, right when I came into camp, I was coming in. They telling me to play. I was going to be safety, and then the first day they're like, "Oh, let's go to the wide receiver room." So I was like, "Okay, I guess." And I went to wide receiver room. And they're installing all these plays and all the splits and everything, and I was just like, "You don't just line up and just go run around. You have to line up at a specific split and spot on the field, and then do stuff." So it was eye opening, but I think Alex said yesterday, I had 1 rep in those 3 days, and I was just a one-on-one go route where I jumped over a corner and caught it would have been like a 40-yard bomb, but that's basically what my wide receiver days were in high school. Just throw it up and go jump and catch it.
Yeah. So. Besides Alex, who was in that receiver room that I would know?
Jared Aberderis was the guy at that time.
Yeah.
And then Alex Erickson, obviously, it was me and him. He was number 30 back then. We were both scout team guys, like that age. We were lifting in the same group. I don't know if you'd know anybody else at that time. Right. Some guys came in after us that you might know, but.
All right. So then you settled in at linebacker. Then so you redshirted? Is this right?
No,
you played
special teams.
Okay.
Rookie year or freshman year.
Okay, and then you settled in a linebacker after that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you said you had a good junior year, but your senior year was the one.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you remember anything about the process of when you started thinking, hey, like the NFL's real? Like, where am I going to land? You know, what do you remember about that time?
Yeah, I think I was just excited. I think kind of annoyingly with myself, I was like kind of looking forward to like not doing school anymore and like getting into the NFL lifestyle where you could just focus on football. You didn't have to do school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like my end of my senior year. I was looking forward to, like, I obviously wanted to play the last games with my teammates and my friends at Wisconsin, but I was looking forward to doing the whole combine prep, traveling to wherever to work out, and kind of getting everything. You have all the time to yourself to like make sure you're in better shape, or as good a shape as you can be.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, like, as soon as the season was over, I flew out to California and I was working out with Proactive Sports in Irvine, California, and enjoying myself, getting chef-made meals every day and all that stuff. So it was like right at the end of senior year, I think it was definitely when I was kind of ready for the next step. But if I could go back, I'd just tell myself, just enjoy it right now. NFL will be there and will be fun, but college is fun too.
So you get picked and team's bad and you're playing out of position, right? So what good and bad from your rookie year? What
I think
stands
good
out?
was the fact that, especially on special teams, but also on defense at times, it was proved to myself, like, yeah, you can hang with these guys. Physically, you can play. Obviously, going against some tackles and stuff every single play. When I'm 6'1" with not long arms and they're 6'5", 330 pounds, just trying to run block you and you're trying to make it so they can't move you an inch, was a little bit rough, but I think, especially on special teams, proved to myself that I could stick around in the league as long as I'm still healthy for quite a while, because I was going against perennial Pro Bowl special teams guys or good guys on the teams and able to win a lot of matchups that year.
Had you ever really played on the edge? Because I know a lot of your rookie year you had to do that just because they didn't have anyone else.
Yeah, I did it in college all the time, but in college it's totally different. Like the tackles, you will run into like one good tackle a year, and then if you just make a couple good plays that game on them, that's good. But in the NFL, you run into a good tackle every single game, and then it went from making a couple good plays a game to trying to make one good play a game, and that started to be a struggle.
Right. There's some monsters that play inside linebacker in the NFL. You're not one of them. So
no.
Physical and mental part of this question. Physically, do you have to do anything different to kind of protect yourself from the bigger guards and to hold up over the course of the season?
I've always played, even when I was outside linebacker in college, I always played the same way. It was where I slip a lot of blocks, and the big guys are big and strong, and they can move forward fast in the NFL, but still laterally, quick change of direction stuff, you're always going to be better just scientific. I'm 225, 30 pounds, moving my body a lot faster than they can move their 330-pound body when they're starting to move. So I just slip around guys a lot and just kind of float to the ball. And I've always had good spatial awareness kind of skills where I can run and look at the ball, but also feel the guys around me in the bodies and kind of make the little adjustments to avoid blockers or getting hit. And then I think also I'm still quite a bit stronger than a lot of people think, even though I'm not as big. So when I do hit somebody straight up, I'm able, especially from playing on the outside, able to use my leverage and stalemate even the bigger guys for at least a couple plays.
Right. What is your real weight, and do you think is an issue in the NFL?
What's my real weight?
Yeah.
I'm like 228 usually, 228 to 232. It fluctuates. Usually in the summer it gets down because I'm running a lot, trying to get in shape for camp. But as soon as I get back to camp, I can put that right back on, just eating food.
I can do the same.
Yeah. What was the second part of the question?
I mean, does it really matter? Like, can you have a long NFL career as a 228-pound?
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I've seen a lot of guys who, like even the guys who are listed at, I might be listed at 240. Yeah. There's a lot of guys in the NFL who are listed at 240, 245, who are 235 or less at the max. It's just the most important thing is how guys play. There's a lot of small corners, a lot of small safeties. Small safeties are impressive when they come up and light people up. Yeah. It's like they're 200 pounds and they're taking on Gronk every week, and guys that size, and they're doing just fine. So I think it's all just in your head and your attitude.
How did your body feel after 16 games of playing every snap?
Surprisingly good. I think it's kind of weird. There felt like a couple of the games where I didn't play, like get as many tackles or play as good or wasn't involved in as much stuff. I felt more sore. And then there's games where I had like 14, 15 tackles where I woke up on Monday just feeling brand new, like nothing happened the day before. So I think it's always kind of weird. Just depends on what happens, and it's not necessarily how much contact you have. It's just the way it happens. Okay. And you just have to kind of get lucky and not have somebody roll up on your knee wrong or sprain an ankle or get a concussion or something that way, which is, it's always a hazard of playing the game. But I did a pretty good job last year, if not, or got pretty lucky last year in not being involved in anything like that.
Was there a non-physical hangover from 0-16, or were you able to move on pretty quickly?
I think the biggest hangover is during the season when you're 0-10, and then you go to 0-11, and then you go to 0-12. By the time it gets to 0-16, you're just like, okay, we've lost all these games.
Right.
I'm just ready to flush it and get on to the next season because you can't do anything about it, and it's been building for the whole year. So it kind of goes, it's kind of worse during the season when it's in the midway, when you're trying to get, like, we need to get a win. We can't put ourselves in a position to be 0-16. And when it actually happened, like, we had so much heartbreak during the season and with a bunch of games where we should have won. That once the season was over, it's kind of like, all right, screw that. Let's just move on.
Right. You guys have better players, but, do you think, Joe, at the NFL level, like, a hunger. We're tired of this shit. We're better than people think. Can that help you against the best players in the world?
Yeah, I think definitely the mindset. When it's the best players in the world, there's a lot less disparity. Every team's talented. Everybody's got a similar level of player. Like, obviously, there's some freaks, but pretty much every team's on pretty even level talent-wise. So it all comes down to attitude and effort. Like, if a team goes into a week with no preparation against a team that had prepared a lot and wants it a lot more, they're going to get blown out. So it's a lot that can be huge at our level, I think, especially.
The easiest thing to say in football in the spring and summer is there's a different vibe this year. We're ready, but you feel it like it's legit, like it's a real thing.
Definitely, like the competitiveness of the spring practices is totally different than anything I've experienced so far in the NFL in the 2 years I've been there. So it's going to be an exciting season as long as everybody can stay healthy. I'm looking forward to big things.
When you went to the Pro Bowl, did you catch any shit for 0-16?
No. Everybody was pretty. They're more just asking like how old I was, like how many years I'd been in the league, and once he said like this is my second year, everybody was pretty impressed and complimentary, and like nobody really brought that stuff up. They're all there on vacation with their families, so they weren't really coming at me asking too many questions anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Considering those guys your peers at the Pro Bowl, I mean that had to be an awesome experience.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like just growing up, like in college, I was 58. Like because Von Miller, I was a big fan of his when he first got into the league, and just like to be able to see guys like that and talk to them, ask questions, and have them like look at you as a peer instead of like a lower athlete or a lesser like college football player just trying to teach you. They're talking to you and like bouncing ideas off and expecting to hear stuff back was huge, and it was awesome. It was I learned a lot of stuff and a lot of great guys.
Cool. I'd imagine you had some legit emotions yesterday. So did you? And tell me what they were.
Yeah, it was awesome just to be able to come back to the community that like helped raise you. Be in a position to do something like that. Obviously, there's a lot of guys in the NFL who take advantage of it and host their own camps and stuff. And it was just something I wanted to do after I saw Alex Erickson did it last year, and I kind of saw how he ran his camp, and I tried to model mine pretty similarly after his. And we were able to get a lot of kids to come out and hopefully teach a lot of things and be able to give back with the proceeds from the camp to the community. So it's just an awesome experience.
Awesome. What about the jersey going up?
Yeah, that was cool. I think 2 weeks ago they told me they were just going to do it in between the camps, so it's kind of a little surprise. But I guess it's cool to be the first one, and I'm hopeful that kids, when they see it and they look and see my jersey in either whatever the stands or in the school, wherever it's displayed, they'll like be inspired about the stuff I've been able to go on and do, and hopefully a couple more kids come and join me.
When you take the path you and Alex have taken, are you always a walk-on? Does that always go with you?
Yeah, you're always a walk-on, 100%. You always walk on. You always have that chip on your shoulder, and you know how to work. I think the day that chip stops being there is the day I'll probably be leaving the NFL and moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, all right. Awesome, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.